Thing about doing a daily show is that when you take one day off from it, it feels like we haven't done this show in 10 years.
Well, you've taken off, what, 6 days? It's been 6 days since our last show?
Possibly. We didn't try in the previous 2, so it's been like 2 weeks off, basically.
And we recorded the Wednesday episode on Tuesday.
That was the one we didn't try.
Okay, yes.
No effort. So it's Monday and people are pissed because we've been off for so long. There's so much stuff that we have to get to that we're not even going to focus on why we're pissed. Although we are going to talk about people possibly being pissed at Corey Perry, people definitely being pissed at the NHL. Here is what has happened since we last spoke. You saw Corey Perry take leave from the Blackhawks. The Bruins have fallen off. Arguably one of the worst teams in the NHL, people are saying. We're now a Rangers show. Marc-André Fleury wore a goalie mask. A lot of hubbub about it. The Oilers season officially ended last Wednesday. Alex Ovechkin says that he and Sidney Crosby saved the NHL, and the Oilers have been galvanized. They've proved a lot of the haters wrong. They're on a winning streak, and they're probably going to win the Stanley Cup now.
It has been a big week, and Connor McDavid officially back. MVP watch back on 5-point night last night.
Yeah, you know what? It was good to see him smile. I was a betting man on that game, and one of my bets was Leon Draisaitl to score, and I had just experienced I'd bet on Jack Hughes to score the previous night, and everybody on Jack Hughes's line scored multiple times. Luke Hughes scored, and I thought that it was going to be a repeat of that, where every Oiler against the Ducks last night scored, except for Leon Draisaitl. But wouldn't you know it, they scored a bajillion goals. We'll talk about the Oilers in a second anyway. But yeah, welcome back to What Chaos. We've got a very big week of programs for you. And
hope everybody had a nice U.S. Thanksgiving.
A good U.S. Thanksgiving. What did you do? Did you have a good U.S. Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I ate lots of food. I watched the entire first season of Fargo over again for the third time. One of the best seasons of television ever.
Nice.
Of all time. You've never seen it.
Still haven't. I'm
Despite
considering
me
doing
begging you to watch it.
I have been doing Letterkenny because Sean lightly suggested I watch it. You're just like, if you want to watch Letterkenny, you can. It's a free country. And I was like, I can't disappoint the guy.
First season of Fargo, tremendous. New season of Fargo, also been tremendous through 2 episodes. So Fargo stonks way up.
Juno Temple doing a Southern accent?
Not Southern.
What kind of accent?
Minnesota.
Oh, right, because it's Fargo. Problematic?
Cultural appropriation?
Minnesota accent?
Some people are asking.
Cancel the Minnesota Vikings? Question mark.
Oh.
My Norwegian grandma always says, she's like, I'm very offended by the Vikings stealing my culture.
I mean, not to get into it, but like, Vikings weren't the best.
No, definitely not.
Oh, no, they were not.
They were
not at
synonymous with things that you don't want to be doing.
The controversies section of their Wikipedia page
is
not amazing. I don't know what would be in like the personal life section of some of the Vikings back in the day. Not the most problematic thing to come from the NFL over the weekend, though.
Why? What was?
Did you see the Chiefs fan?
No.
A Chiefs fan, a young man. Sean, did you see this?
No, but I have a bad feeling of where this is going.
Not only did he wear a full headdress, blackface.
Oh my God.
I didn't know. That's even worse than I thought.
And the reason I saw it, I don't follow Swifties. I follow some friends who are Swifties, but I'm like not trying to see all this stuff. I have had their God's name muted for a long time just because I like the music, but it's just
You like your mental health more.
Yes, exactly. The reason I found out about this extremely racist site that I could not believe was let into the game was Swifties were saying Taylor needs to use her platform to speak out against this. And I was like, I am viewing the most obviously racist picture I've ever seen in my life. Personally, I don't need like Taylor Swift to weigh in.
Although I will say, like, imagine being that guy, and then all of a sudden you have the wrath of Swifties coming down on you. Like that.
That person still has the wrath of Swifties. It's just
because he was wearing a Travis Kelce jersey. I should know.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, Taylor Swift needs to throw a quote tweet on that one to say this is bad.
Is that good? Is that like Travis Kelce stonks up though? That was like by far it's the only not racist thing that kid was wearing. It was a kid though. Like not that I'm saying like any of that shit was okay, but like people are gonna like crush the. I like who let this kid in?
Kid as in like a middle schooler, or kid as in like a young adult?
I think the kid, like it looked like a 12-year-old.
Okay,
and maybe if I saw the picture again, I'd be like, oh,
here we go. DJ just trying to cancel a 12-year-old.
Find the parents.
No, like that's what I'm saying. Like
right, bad
people
parenting.
are like Taylor Swift.
I famously have never done anything bad involving a child.
I mean, that sounded way worse.
That sounded way worse.
Yeah, you made fun of a child on Twitter.
Anyway, throw it to like Google.
Corey Perry, about my Thanksgiving, I fucked up some promo codes. I got the Kraken jersey. I got the the Winter Classic Kraken jersey. That should be here this week. Very pumped for that. Got some new podcast shoes. Lovely Thanksgiving. Amazing. Not so amazing for Corey Perry in the Blackhawks. A weird, we'll say, disappearance break. He left the team unexpectedly in the middle of last week. He's third on the team in goals, in points. A lot of mystery around his absence. Agent says it's personal matters. GM says it was a team decision. He's going to be gone for the foreseeable future. We could speculate on what the hell happened, but I think that more we just say probably not what the team needs.
No, but it's more just like this whole situation is so weird to me because of how vague they're being about everything and how there's no answers anywhere. And it was extremely unexpected. He left on Wednesday, was an unexpected scratch. And I think like the day before or the day of, he was just like meeting with like a bunch of kids at the practice facility. And there was like pictures.
Said kids too many times.
There's been a lot of kids talk. But you know, it seemed like everything was going fine. And now you obviously have conflicting messages between, you know, he said that he's tending to personal matters. Kyle Davidson saying, you know, this is a team decision, and it doesn't sound like anybody's expecting him back anytime soon, which I feel like if it were like a personal thing that like, I feel like if there was something to be said, you would avoid a lot of questions just by putting it out there or by having a uniform message. The fact that there's no uniform message really makes me think that like something happened that shouldn't have happened.
It reminds me of two other recent cases in sports. I'm going to be a lame ass host and not say what they are because I don't want to put the thought in people's brains that like, oh, this thing happened. But twice in the last 2 years, there have been like big either absences or dismissals where for like weeks and months, people were like, yeah, but what happened?
Right.
And they're like, oh, it just had to end. And you're like, oh, okay.
I think
what
I know
did they do?
One that you're talking about.
Well, like Celtics?
Was it local? Yeah, Ime Udoka.
Right, where people were like, yeah, but like he was like the best coach. What happened though? And you don't want to drag people.
There was a crumb of where it lived in the neighborhood of.
That was done so wrong because by one crumb coming out, people were like, all right, well, then we'll fill in the blanks themselves. And then because people are horrible on the internet, they started dragging people who had nothing to do with its names through the mud. And it was just an awful
amateur
scene.
Sleuthing and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the way for the Blackhawks to handle this is. Obviously, they've been put through their paces over the years in dealing with PR nightmares.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like if it's something that's not bad. And maybe it's a personal thing with him, so who knows? I feel like there's got to be some verbiage you can give that can get people to breathe easy on it.
That's where like my concern is that there's a disconnect between the player and the organization, because you would think, again, that if they were sending him home and they sat down and say, this is why we're sending you home. We don't want questions about this. We don't want people prying into it. So let's have a uniform message here. And let's say use this verbiage and we'll go our separate ways. Either that conversation wasn't had or it wasn't followed, because there is a split.
He's on a 1-year, $4 million contract, and he was one of the veterans that was brought in to make it nice surroundings for Connor Bedard. Obviously, I think he has, whether he comes back at all, I think he's kind of been subtracted from that fit. How do you think this ends? And it's tough to answer without knowing what happened, but like, do you think that they just say, all right, let's just kind of sever ties here?
I mean, it definitely doesn't sound like they expect him back anytime soon, or if at all. And, you know, again, we don't know what happened, so I don't want to speculate. So I don't know how it ends. I don't know how it goes in the next week. But it's obviously a distraction, and they, like you said, they brought him to Chicago to not only not create distractions, but to help with any that may arise with that young team. So I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't come back. He's obviously held a pretty important role in that lineup, but you know, if it's a bad issue and if it can't be resolved without bringing up a ton more questions or whatever, he may be done. Or they may, if he does come back, they may end up dealing him somewhere else. I don't know, but I don't want to speculate on what happens.
I should also note, it's not the only adversity that the Blackhawks are facing right now, because Taylor Hall is also lost for the season.
Yeah, that's an injury.
Right.
So
No, but so like, you bring in these guys, and obviously you had to get to the floor this year, so you had some money to burn, but I thought it was wise that they brought in and I hate when people say former first overall pick. They brought in another first overall pick. Yeah. Although if you want to speak disparagingly of the player, you call them a former first overall pick because it makes it sound like it didn't work out. But Taylor Hall is somebody who experienced all the hoopla, and as Foligno told us, no one has experienced what Bedard has experienced, but at least he kind of has some of that in his past where you could tell him, like, hey, this is
in Edmonton too, which is a big hockey market. So like he got a ton of attention.
Right. So it sucks that he's not going to be around. And just for where he is in his career, he's got to be really frustrated. So that sucks. It sucks for him. It sucks for the Blackhawks. And then on top of that, now Perry's gone. There were so many good and wild games over the last week that we haven't been able to talk about. The Friday game between the Leafs and the Blackhawks, admittedly, I only watched the third period and overtime of that game, but who fucking cares? Those were the cool parts of that game. The Leafs blow a lead in the third period. Blackhawks come back, win in overtime. Bedard was electric. Friend of the show, Kevin Korchinski, scores the game winner. It was amazing. I don't think the Blackhawks are going to have a ton of galvanizing moments this season. I think that we could have guessed at the beginning of the year what their season might look like, but it sucks that they had this awesome game and this awesome moment. And it's like the bad is outweighing the good.
It feels like the wheels are kind of falling off a little bit over there. And obviously things weren't expected to be good, but yeah, you're right in the sense that like more bad than good right now in Chicago.
That's why you have Nick Foligno, and
who spoke up, I think, this week and was like, this is unacceptable. We have some effort issues with this team.
I've noticed, are there words that you didn't say when you were a kid? I'm not talking about swears or anything, but like things that you didn't say when you were younger that you say all the time when you're older.
Probably
I notice adults and myself, I say unacceptable all the time.
Everything's acceptable when you're a kid. There's nothing unacceptable when you're a child.
Right.
Like as evidenced by that Chiefs fan.
Right. But when an athlete is like, this is unacceptable, I like fucking, I hear that. I'm like,
this
yeah, man.
Might not hit for you, but when I hear unacceptable, I think of Adventure Time. I don't know.
Adventure Time?
Adventure Time. This is gonna hit for a very specific group of people, but there's a character in it who his name is like got a lemon head. I forget what his name is, and he screams unacceptable in like a very specific way. So whenever I hear unacceptable, it's exactly what I think of.
What
Completely
is
over my
this
head.
show?
You don't know what Adventure Time is?
Is it a spin-off of Letterkenny?
No. It's like it's a popular cartoon.
Okay.
But it's got like, it's like a, not an adult cartoon, but it's a very like a cartoon with a lot of meaning, I guess. It's like a
BoJack Horseman.
Yeah, kind of.
That's
Not
an adult
a
cartoon.
little less. It's more child friendly than BoJack Horseman, but it's a very good cartoon.
Is Juno Temple in it?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. You see this? Marc-André Fleury had an awesome mask, and the NHL saw it as an opportunity for everyone to get pissed at them. So I'm sure everyone heard this, but the Wild held Native American Heritage Night Friday versus the Avalanche. Marc-André Fleury's wife is Indigenous, so he had Native artist Cole Redhorse Taylor design him what is objectively an awesome mask.
It looks so good.
And also objectively an inoffensive mask, but it was in violations of the NHL's specialty equipment ban that they instituted this season, which also, you remember weeks ago, people were freaking out about Pride tape because the NHL wasn't letting people use Pride tape, which was the silliest thing in the world. Fleury was willing to just wear the mask during warmups,
Eat the fine,
whatever. But the team came to him and was like, the NHL has told us multiple times, you are not, I don't know if they used this word, but the NHL said unacceptable.
Yeah, and they threatened to punish the team with a significant fine, apparently. Tons of backlash that day. A lot of people just doing the WTF, like, league can't get out of its own way type thing. And then turns out later that night, Fleury wears the mask anyway. No ban, no punishment. And, like, obviously, anybody with common sense knows that, like, he should have been able to wear the mask. And there shouldn't have been a discussion about, like, hey, is this acceptable, whatever. And, you know, given what happened with Travis Dermott and the Pride tape and kind of the precedent that was set that, like, you know, if you do something that kind of abides by common sense law, we're probably not going to punish you. But that leaves that we're still having the discussion. We're still going through all the drama. And then the league has to take the role of, like, moral arbiter, where it's like they get to decide what gets punished and what doesn't under this, like, grand umbrella of no specialty equipment and stuff. And, like, you have the Sergei Bobrovsky wearing the Hockey Fights Cancer thing, and they said that they could wear those because they'd worn them in the past. Like, there's just so much gray area under this equipment law that it makes no fucking sense. You need to come up with a better, more black and white sort of rules here with this new equipment law, because I do not want to be having these discussions every 2 weeks and having these freakouts every 2 weeks.
Like, NHL, why are you doing this? Like, with some of the specialty equipment that you're not so psyched about, there are international or geopolitical, I don't want to say excuses, but you could say, like, well, players from this country will get pressure, family, whatever. Like, you can, again, I don't think that these are necessarily good reasons, but you could give reasons for why you are feeling pressure to not have players do X. A mask that has, like, can you put that mask back up?
It's literally just flowers, right? Like, what? Like,
and, like, he could have said that this wasn't an indigenous
right?
thing,
Like,
and people would
who's
have
going to
been
stop
like,
him from, like, Linus Ullmark changes his mask every 2 weeks,
every hour.
And I don't have to hear him going through, like, special channels or something to get the mask approved. Like, I'm sure there's probably an approval board or something. But why? At what point was that mask stopped? And they were like, nope, can't do it.
Honestly, I bet it was.
And for what reason?
That he was like, hey, shout out this artist. Here's why I did it. Here's the meaning behind it. Because I think that once they hear meaning, they're like, making a statement, let's keep politics out of this. And it's like, one of your teams is holding a Native American Heritage Night. This person is spending their hard-earned to gussy himself up and participate in it.
The best part about the reason that this equipment thing was instituted was obviously because of the pride jerseys from last year and how much discussion came up every time a player chose not to wear one. And I believe the league instituted this rule so that they could avoid some of the drama that comes up with that stuff and making players feel uncomfortable. And I feel like we're getting even more of it now because of like the pride tape thing. We've already got two very clear examples of this causing controversy and stirring the pot where it probably shouldn't have, with the pride tape and now with this one. And it's just doing the exact thing. It's they just shot themselves in the foot.
The NHL has found a way to create a world where, like, you haven't seen Popstar, but in that movie, Andy Samberg's character has a song that is like Macklemore's Same Love. And it's all about like
I've
gay people
that,
should be able to marry each other. And he's like making all these statements, and it's a mockumentary. And after they cut to Ringo Starr, and he's like, he's doing this song like it's illegal. Like gay people can get married. And like, there are so many like statements that are made where you're like, obviously,
right.
Like who are you saying this against? The NHL has found a way to make itself the entity against which people take stands with things that I thought we kind of all agreed on.
Right.
Like that somebody wearing pride tape or doing anything like that goes in the face of something in 2023 is outrageous. And that somebody saying,
like indigenous
I am
pride.
going to wear something for indigenous pride on the night of a Native American Heritage Night goes against something
and it's not,
that is under the
and it's not like he slapped a patch on his jersey where it's like, oh, he's got a patch on where nobody else has a patch and it's like violating uniform code. He's literally wearing a custom mask, which every goalie in the league does.
Yeah, like this is
it's hilarious.
This ain't virtue signaling or going up against a straw man. Like the NHL at points is voluntarily making itself the illogical bad guy for any easy kind of obvious statement of like, oh, like we're doing a Native American heritage thing. Cool. I'm going to get, I don't want to like make it myself. I'm going to get a Native American artist to make my mask. Is that cool?
My thing is like I feel like they've completely lost their authority on this stuff too, because now twice people have been like, we're going to ignore the rule. And they're like, okay, but there's no punishment for it.
Yeah, right.
It's like, why do this? I mean, Julia in the chat makes a fair point that they've managed to avoid like a lot of players looking bad because now players don't have to have, like they make themselves look bad as opposed to having the players that like opted out of wearing the pride jerseys from looking bad, which is like, I guess cool NHL for falling on that sword, but I also don't feel like that was their motive. It's like, we'll take the blame.
Marc-André Fleury, all he wanted to do was wear the mask, and now I'm sure he had to go through like tons of media and stuff where he may not want to answer questions or whatever, and just face a ton of headlines or whatever based off of this. Like, so if they're trying to take the heat off the players and make themselves look bad, sure, they're doing that. But they're also forcing players to answer questions where they might not have to.
I will say though, is like if this never happened, no one would have noticed the helmet or anything. And I feel like ultimately it's a good thing that like there's attention being paid to like the Heritage Night and the mask, and ultimately the NHL does look bad. But well, I mean, they just look stupid because they ultimately didn't do anything. It's not like they didn't find him or anything. So they just was like, this is an issue that never should have happened. But ultimately, the result is people paid attention to the Heritage Night and the mask when they probably wouldn't have if there was no rules against it.
I feel like time and again with this specialty equipment ban thing, though, the NHL is getting outed, no pun intended, I suppose, as like ill-prepared or unsure of their own new rule before they acquiesce, which is good. Like a good end result of this is the NHL saying, yeah, we're not going to fine you for it. I don't like that there needs to be a process to get there, but I guess it's ultimately good that in the end they're like, okay, we were wrong about this thing, and that they're willing to admit that. But so many times they need to be proven illogical or getting in their own way before they go along with something that, like I said before, like
making
none of us were like did we think that any hockey fans were going to be like, get that off your mask, man? Like nobody was going to notice it.
Yeah, it just seems like they're making shit up on the fly, and they don't really have a plan.
Well, at least, like I said, he wasn't fined. The mask, everyone can agree,
it's awesome.
Looks really good. I hope he wears it for the rest of the season. I think that really there aren't a ton. You don't see a ton of like cream-based masks that have scarce design on it.
Yeah, and like the simplicity of it was beautiful, and like I guess maybe the positive here is did they auction off the mask?
They did.
Yeah, it ended up getting over like $15,000.
And I bet that number got driven up a little
100%.
bit with now there's a story behind it, and so I have trouble giving the NHL that much credit that they were like, let's spark some controversy on this and drive up the price of this mask.
Also, I feel like the NHL is sitting there being like, we look good now because we could have fined you, but we're not going to because we're good guys.
Also, over the weekend, the New York Rangers have surpassed the Boston Bruins.
Best team in the league.
As the best team in the league. And they played on Saturday. The Rangers looked like the far better team at Madison Square Garden. I saw a tweet from Steve Conroy, one of my favorite hockey writers, who did raise the point because people were freaking out saying like the Bruins are being proven to be frauds and like all this stuff. And he was like, Bruins probably aren't the best team in the NHL, but a good thing that we've learned so far is like there aren't that many unbelievable teams in the NHL. And I think the Rangers, we're a Rangers show now because they're the best team in the NHL. But I think the Rangers being the best team in the NHL right now kind of does illustrate that, because I still don't look at the Rangers as world beaters. And it makes me wonder, how many teams do I look at as world beaters? This is more of like the Canucks are so fun. This rocks. And like the Vegas doesn't have the Stanley Cup hangover.
Yeah, and like I mean, there have been teams over the past handful of years that you have looked at and been like, okay, that team is heads and shoulders above everybody else. For a while, it was the Tampa Bay Lightning, Colorado Avalanche, the Bruins last year. There was always a team that you're like, oh, that team is kicking the shit out of everybody, and I don't see it changing. This year, I'm not sure if I see any team in that light. There have been a lot of teams that have had success in the early going, but I don't necessarily look at any of them and say this team doesn't have flaws.
We can do a little like here come the Hurricanes though, because like they obviously smoked the Oilers last Wednesday, but they're kind of creeping up. But
again, that's not a team without flaws.
Yeah.
Like that team has struggled with its goaltending early in the season. We've seen in the past year or so, like their offense can go quiet and just come up with empty calories and have trouble finishing. They don't have that like true headliner for superstar talent. No disrespect to Sebastian Aho or anybody else on that roster, but like we've been asking that question for a couple of years now is, you know, who on that roster will take over a game when it comes to the playoffs when they need it?
We are seeing a bit of an Achilles-ish heel with the Bruins, and it's not necessarily center. Matty Poitras has kind of fallen back to earth, and if he were better, he has 2 points in his last 9 games. If he were, and like we'll talk about Leo Carlsson in a little bit. I accept slumps from young players. Like play them, it's fine, it's okay. If he were better and the Bruins could play the JVR Coyle Frederick line as a third line, the Bruins would actually be a pretty awesome team, but they have to play that as a second line, and they're just one of a lot of good teams.
That line's been really good, though.
But what, the Coyle line?
Yeah.
Love it. I'm crazy about it. But in recent games, it could be argued their weakness is on the blue line.
Yeah. I mean, they've got some question marks defensively. They haven't been very good. Obviously, I think they gave up 12 goals last 2 games.
7 and 5.
So, and, the goaltending wasn't amazing either. But the bigger problem for me, long-term picture, rest of the season, like, what are you going to do with Kevin Shattenkirk, Ian Mitchell, Mason Lohrei? Hasn't looked great defensively. He's had his flashes offensively. They've got some question marks on the blue line, and may get into some Patrick Kane talk a little bit later.
Whoa.
That name was linked to the Bruins by one Elliot Friedman in 32 Thoughts.
Play defense. It's probably what Bruins fans are asking.
That's
Pete.
right. So I think number one priority to where the Bruins could improve and solidify is definitely on the back end.
The Oilers, meanwhile, got destroyed on Wednesday night, Wednesday night was a good night of a lot of teams being on their best behavior for U.S. Thanksgiving, putting on their Wednesday before U.S. Thanksgiving best, really trying their hardest. Oilers come out and are like, they were literally falling down in, you
know what that meant,
did
though?
Nurse hit himself in the face?
He did. He bounced off the crossbar, puck hit him in the face.
Stu Skinner fell down.
Yep.
So was doing one of his little
fell
slide
down in pregame and during the game.
Just kept going. And it was like, oh boy. But the thing is, I see stuff like that, and I'm so stupid. I'm like, Oilers by 1 million. And they go out and get absolutely
smoked,
stomped, and you're like, all right, like they really are done. And I thought, they burned the fire the coach thing too early. I still think that they had to, but like,
you know what that said to me? That game said to me, we're Canadian. We don't give a fuck about U.S. Thanksgiving. It means nothing to us. Everybody's looking at this as, hey, need to get a win to get in playoff position. They said, we're 8 points out of a playoff spot. We're not even close to sniffing it. We don't care about this game. Doesn't matter to us. And we don't care about Thanksgiving. You know what we will do? Start ripping off wins after U.S. Thanksgiving.
Well, it's the thing, like, people get this with dieting or like saving money and things like that. It's like, well, if I can't do it all in what I can't lose 20 pounds today anyway.
Right.
So what am I going to do? Exercise today? I can't do it. I want to lose 20 pounds and I can't do it today. So whatever. I'll just go on with my day normally. Except the Oilers' day is like fucking like falling down during warmups and hitting themselves in the face and then going out and getting crushed in the first period and being like, oh, okay, well, whatever. But they've rattled off 2 good wins since. They shut out the Capitals on Friday. And then Sunday night, they played a game against the Ducks, Pete, that had me asking, are the Oilers Pacific Division disruptors?
It's a good place to be.
They killed the Ducks.
They killed the Ducks. Ducks have not been playing well recently. So, but Oilers looked like Team of Destiny.
8-2.
Team of Destiny. Are we starting up that talk? They smoked them, and they looked really good in the process. McDavid, again, 5 points. Looked like McDavid. Has looked like McDavid for past few games. So that's a very good sign, obviously. Still not... We know that the Oilers can be a good team on any given night.
Pete, buddy, they are up to 15 points.
That's right.
We both had to double check that audibly, visually, multiple times for the show. We were getting ready, and I was like, Oilers have how many points? 15? And you were like, that can't be right.
Oilers are on a heater. How do they have 15 points? They have 15 points on a heater.
That is so cool. We're talking about they've won 2 games. So before that, they had 11 points.
Mm-hmm.
My God. They've like truly just been losing every game. I know that we've been talking about it after each game being like, Oilers lost again. Wasn't particularly close. How do you only have 15 points while on a heater?
I know. It speaks to how much ground they like still have to make up.
You also said that they looked good in the process. They did look good offensively.
Yes.
In the first period last night, but there were points in the first period where I was seriously trying to book. I was like, Guy Boucher is an assistant with the Leafs now, right?
Okay. I don't know.
I was like, if Guy Boucher's around, I want to get some recently in the NHL head coach to just discuss like, hey, if you were the Oilers head coach, would you just totally punt on defense? Because
So you want to ask the same question that was asked to Connor McDavid a week ago when he said you love asking this question? Because that's essentially what that was. Do you punt on defense
we
and
also
just try to
learned
score
that
7
Tim
goals?
Peel didn't misheard that question, which is why he got on him.
I sort of
He thought that he
I
was
sort of
saying, do
assumed
you
that.
want to win 4-1 or lose 7-5?
Right.
No, he said, do you want to win 4-1
Right.
or win 7-5?
I think that he didn't fully understand what Spector was getting at.
Right. I think McDavid got a little mouthy.
And then they
a
scored.
little disrespectful.
And then they scored 8 goals. So seems like they might want to win. They're trying to do both.
But there were still points in that first period last night where I was like, just honestly, don't even play defense. It's just going to be, you're going to give up a million chances no matter what anyway, even with the defensemen you have. And you have like 1.5 good defensemen, like 1 3/4 good defensemen on that team. Just play 5 forwards. Sometimes put Nurse out there and just play 5 forwards.
That's an interesting theory. I mean, that seems like a thing that Fluto Shinzawa would write.
I was going to have Fluto. So Fluto was seen as like a badass because a few years ago he was like, why don't the Bruins just play 5 forwards? Like once Torrey Krug leaves, they should just play 5 forwards on the power play.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, you stay inside the box,
Think
brother.
different.
Yeah. We should get Fluto on and be like, what would you do with the Oilers? Because he would have the right answer. And I bet his answer would be like, play 4 forwards.
Here's a question. Like, I've never even considered this. Are there rules for NHL roster construction purposes? Like, you know how in the expansion draft you have to either do like this many skaters or this many forwards and defensemen? Like, could you just assemble a team full of forwards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can play positionless hockey.
Yeah.
It's not like, I don't think it's like, I would understand in the
I didn't know if there was just rules.
NFL, you have to dress, you can dress 2 quarterbacks, and then you could have a third one dress that can only enter the game if the first 2 get hurt. Subscribe on YouTube. But yeah, you could just, I mean, teams do that all the time where they'll dress.
No, I know that they'll like dress an extra forward versus a defenseman, and
right.
But I didn't know if like there were rules from a roster standpoint on in like the CBA or whatever.
You know how I've been dressing recently? Regularly. You know how I've been living my life? Regularly. And it's thanks to Olipop. Peter, I am on such a lemon lime kick. I couldn't tell you, and I drink Olipop all the time. I couldn't tell you the last time I had another Olipop flavor, and I love the other Olipop flavors. This lemon lime has been hitting so well recently.
Lemon lime and cream soda are my 2 favorites.
Classic cola, man. I love it so much. I miss it so much.
We don't have one of those, so
we currently don't have any. I cleaned us out. I sucked them all down. And in doing so, I wasn't sucking down 5 grams of sugar.
Nope.
Because you're not finding that in a can of Olipop. What you are finding is the dietary fiber in a prebiotic soda that's going to help keep you regular. And if you are an American, chances are, if you're an American adult, you got some digestive issues. I hate to be the doctor and tell you this, sit you down, say 2 and 3 of you, digestive issues. What will help with that? A prebiotic soda. It tastes so delicious. What I've enjoyed by people getting into Olipop is them saying, I didn't know what you meant when you say it doesn't taste like it's trying to be something.
Oh, it just tastes like a soda.
It just tastes like it doesn't. It tastes like its own soda, and it's so good. You can get on the grape if you pry it out of
My
Sean's
favorite flavor,
hands.
for real.
They're so delicious, and they fit in a lot of diets, be it vegan or if you're on keto, it all works. And if you use the promo code CHAOS on drinkolipop.com, you're getting 20% off your next Olipop order.
I think we've had more listener feedback on Olipop than anything we've discussed hockey-wise.
Good.
And that's not to say we haven't gotten much discussion or much feedback elsewhere. It's just the responses on Olipop have been overwhelming. People love them.
So
we love them.
Go to 22,000 stores right now. Yeah, I mean, if we're doing like a power rankings of things on this show, I'd say guest segments / interviews, 1, set design, 2, Olipop reads, 3, hockey discussion, For what else do we do on here? We haven't reviewed a movie, but we're going to do that tomorrow.
Hockey movies that aren't hockey movies. We've gotten a lot of suggestions on those ones that we may have missed. But yeah, we will be reviewing a hockey holiday movie.
Hallmark.
What's it called? Checking It Twice?
Checking It Twice.
Checking It Twice. We're going to have a Checking It Twice review this week. We both watched it this weekend. And boy,
Find it and watch
are there things to talk about.
Listeners of our brunch podcast, I know, do enjoy when we discuss movies they haven't seen, and our discussion being their only indication that it exists and guessing, does this thing even exist? But I would recommend this movie. Watch it. We'll discuss it tomorrow. It's a love story. It's a hockey story. Pete, it's an American story.
That's right. It's a small town story.
It's just two people trying to check it twice. And
you'll never guess what happens at the end.
They do. So the Oilers, as we discussed, kicked the crud out of the Ducks. And we did not see Leo Carlsson, number 2 overall pick. He has played in 14 of the Ducks' 21 games. He has 9 points, 6 goals, and 3 assists. And the Ducks are essentially doing a rookie season load management with him that is being done in the name of avoiding a rookie wall. This team started strong. They were in a playoff spot. We had Frank Vetrano on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get a Frank Vetrano 30th anniversary jersey. I've been scouring the web for deals. They finally put it on sale. It's such
crazy.
A good jersey.
It's crazy that it took them that long to put that jersey on sale.
I want one so bad.
You and everybody else, pal.
If you're a fan of the Ducks, are you getting a Leo Carlsson 30th anniversary jersey? Are you like, folks, you're not letting me see the guy? The team has stunk of late. They have lost 6 straight games? Yeah, they've lost 6 straight games, including an ass kicking against the Oilers last night.
Not to go backwards, but someone in the chat said they worked on Checking It Twice.
Oh, no way.
Whoa.
Bill Bull said, I worked on the movie Checking It Twice.
We may need
Could not care less about the Ducks. Start pumping in information about this.
Find out more about this.
I mean, the Bulls got to give us more information.
Drop more info on what you did for that movie.
Give us more info. We're going to review the movie tomorrow.
And give us the tea, too.
But I will just say, by the end of the movie, I was in love with both of the 2 leads. I was like, I don't know why I'm coming around on this character and also on this character. With about 3 minutes left, I was like, oh, they're both freaking beautiful.
It took you the entire movie.
They both looking good. No, because like honestly, like that stuff we talk. Like I don't watch movies being like, that person's hot, nice, good movie. They're hot. But by the end of the movie, I was like, it's got hockey and pretty
I just can't
people.
believe it took you that long. Obviously.
Oh no, I knew that the
man was a very attractive man.
No, honestly, he wasn't really doing it for me.
I was. He's a looker.
There was like a bit of Rosamund Pike to the other lead,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like,
yeah, that's true.
And I just liked her character. I wanted good things to happen for her. I liked that despite being away from her family so long,
save it for the
she
review.
could drop back in and still have this kind of familial thing.
The Bulls said that they worked on locations for it and that they filmed in Kelowna and Vernon, BC.
They did Canada for the United States.
Yeah.
That's what the Bulls saying, I guess.
Interesting. Why don't you, if it's a hockey movie, just do it in BC?
Yeah, right? Maybe Hallmark had a thing or whatever where they were like, it needs to be an American movie.
We'll talk about that tomorrow.
I bet a lot of Hallmark Channel viewers would be like, who cares about Canada?
If you don't know, Pete and I watch every Hallmark Christmas movie.
We do. It's the best.
Ideally modern ones that are gay relationships with like
not always Hallmark, by the way.
That's right. It's not always Hallmark.
It's like a quote unquote like genre.
Yeah, I watched
Christmas
a Hallmark movie over the. I don't know if it was a Hallmark movie, but it was a quote unquote Hallmark movie.
Like the streaming holiday movies are the best.
Last Christmas, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's only Wham music. Like
Okay.
Only Wham music. It was honestly it was a really good movie, but it was hilarious. It was only Wham.
Last year we had the Lindsay Lohan one. Loved that one. The one with Jimmy O Yang.
That was a good one.
It was like a Die Hard themed Christmas movie or something.
Yeah,
I forget what it was called.
Mainly, I like the Christmas movies. I feel like half of the holiday rom-coms are about having to trick people at Christmas.
Yeah, they usually are.
To be like, oh no, now like I'm getting divorced. Hold on, I gotta trick my family into thinking you're my husband. And like, I don't know about everybody else. The holidays are so overwhelming and there's so many things happening. I am not paying attention to what somebody's significant other is, whether they're in town, anything like that. But in a lot of these Christmas movies, people are like, oh, gotta trick my family.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I don't have a family where people feel compelled to trick each other. Or maybe I've just been tricked a bunch of times.
You're just
maybe I'm the Mark. I'm getting tricked every time. Nobody in my like my parents aren't really married. Like all this, I've been tricked time and again. Is Checking It Twice a movie where they trick each other? Find out tomorrow when we discuss it. But is this load management thing with Leo Carlsson logical? Because I get wanting to prevent a player from hitting a rookie wall, but like they're not going to die if they hit a rookie wall. And great players hit rookie walls, learn that, oh, I learned this about diet and training and blah, blah, and you come back the next year stronger. Like there actually is some benefit to learning what worked in junior doesn't work in the NHL.
Yeah, like, so I definitely can see it from both sides. But I think I have more questions about the load management approach than I would the other one. Just because like there is value in trial by fire. Like how is Leo Carlsson going to adjust to an NHL schedule and the grind of an NHL schedule without playing it in full at least? And from what I've read, they're using his off days as like training days because they want him to beef up. They want him to pick up about 20 more pounds, and a lot of that they want him to pick up in his lower body. And they believe that's what is going to help him in the long run adjust to the NHL schedule. And it does sound like in the second half of the season, they're gonna grind him. Like in the second half of the year, they're gonna run him out there quite a bit. But
they started
doesn't that
strong.
put a lot of pressure on him in the second half? Like if he's playing every day and that's the first time that he's playing every day and it's in the second half, like who's to say that he's not going to hit that wall down the stretch when you might need him most?
Right. Like guys are going to, no offense to Adam Henrique, but like people are going to be going to games the second half of the season being like, I took my kid to a game where Adam Henrique was the first line center for this. You know, like if he's struggling when he comes back, which like the rookie wall thing very well might still happen. And I feel like it creates more questions than answers. And it puts a lot on like McTavish to do everything. Like, cause again, you started strong and the playoffs were, what's that?
McTavish?
Yeah.
For who are you talking about?
I'm saying like it's putting pressure on other like star players for the Ducks.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah,
to have to provide all the offense.
That was kind of one of my questions too. It's like if you're a Ducks player, does this piss you off? Like, does it bother you? Because like Carlsson is performing and he's playing pretty well.
Yeah,
and the talent is obviously there. And like maybe you can make the argument that, well, maybe he's playing so well because he's getting some of these days off. But if you're a player in the locker room and you see that, and then you see him, he has a big game or something, and then he sits the next day, you're like, what the fuck? Like, why isn't this guy playing? We're trying to win games. And they're not winning games now, and he's sitting. And so, like, number one, is it harder for him to get into a groove when he plays well and then sits? And if you're a teammate, you're like, why isn't this guy playing every day? He's good. We need him.
The Ducks are 27th in the NHL in goals per game. 2.76. And that's with Frank Vetrano and Mason Tavish, who you gave me a heart attack. I was like, is he not on the team anymore?
No, I thought you were talking about like McTavish, the coach. I was like, what?
Oh.
It's like, what's going on here?
No, but I mean,
put some respect on Greg Cronin's name.
Yeah, although they're not putting too much respect on their own name right now. They went from fun disruptor to, I'd say just play him. Play him, and if he hits a wall, he'll hit a wall like a lot of great players before him.
Right, and I mean, I think that, I don't know, like, I respect them for having a plan. I respect them for maybe approaching it a little bit differently. I do think that it begs a lot of questions, and I think it's frustrating if you're a Ducks fan. It's probably frustrating if you're Leo Carlsson. It's probably frustrating if you're a Ducks teammate. And I just, I do think that there's value in trial by fire, and I'd like to see him out there more often. And like, he is playing most of the games. It's not like it's not like a 50-50 split or anything. He's sitting the occasional game. It's just, I don't know if he has to.
I think,
and
so
I don't want load
games?
management to be a thing.
No,
I don't want it to be a trend. Like, I don't want to tune into a game and have to wonder if one of their best players is going to be on the ice or not.
And like, we can get credentials and stuff, but I, at this point in my life, way more enjoy going to a game in the stands and doing the fan thing. Tickets cost money, and especially in certain markets, they are so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to experience the thing, like, selfishly me, but I also don't want fans to experience the thing that happens in the NBA, where you get Lakers tickets and you don't see LeBron, and you're like, that was kind of my ticket for the next 3 years. So,
yeah,
I don't want that to happen.
I mean, devil's advocate, he is playing well.
9 points in 14 games.
9 points in 14 games is really solid
for a rookie.
And from what we've seen from him in flashes, the talent is obviously there. And maybe they're just trying to preserve that and keep him fresh, keep him engaged, and make him. And they're utilizing him when he plays. He is playing a lot of minutes. So just playing devil's advocate, like, you can see both sides of it.
I got asked this recently. Who is the Tom Cruise of the NHL?
In terms of like, who's saving cinema?
You knew where I was going with that. Nobody asked me this.
Nobody asked
Alex Ovechkin says that he and Sidney Crosby saved the NHL. Speaking to the Athletics, Rob Rossi said, "We saved the league. Now new guys come in, and I guess we're old news, but we saved it. It's up to those guys to come in and prove me wrong that we're not the best. We saved the NHL." So, do you agree with this?
Yeah.
I have a strong thought on this.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Oh boy, did they!
Yeah, right.
It's the hell out of the NHL.
It seems like a wild thing to say, because did anybody ask him that? Where did that come from?
We've got to get Rob Rossi and Mason McTavish on the next episode just to like fill in some blanks.
Yeah.
Get Rob Rossi on to be like, how'd that come up?
It's a wild thing to say coming out of nowhere, and it does seem like a get out of your own ass kind of quote. But he's right. Like, he is 100% right. Crosby and Ovechkin came along at a time when the NHL desperately needed them, and they desperately needed them to deliver and hit. And I think about this quite often. It is wild that you had two prospects that were as hyped as Crosby and Ovechkin, and not only were both of them great, both of them were all-time greats.
In their rookie years.
And like throughout their entire careers. They never slowed down, either one of them. Obviously, Crosby had the injury issues that he's battled, but he has never been like, oh, what the fuck happened to Sidney Crosby? Real down year or whatever. They've been consistently great ever since they've been in the career. They spent their entire careers on single teams in the same division. Their rivalry has always been awesome
and genuine.
and genuine. And now like they're friendly, but towards the beginning they didn't like each other. Their teams were constantly facing off against each other in meaningful games. They both have won Stanley Cups. It like could not have been more perfect, their careers and how the NHL needed them.
That's all well and good, but you still can hold the microscope to the words saved the NHL. Here's why they did. Not only was the NHL coming off a lockout, they lost ESPN, or ESPN broke up with them. That deal ran out, and they were on OLN. No, first OLN, and then they at least changed the
OLN?
name. The Outdoor Life Network.
Oh boy, that's embarrassing.
Sean, do you remember this?
I remember Versus. I did not know about.
They were on. Well, it was one of those things. Like before, it was called Spike TV. Did it have a different name? One of those things where they just changed the name and kind of rebranded. But the NHL was on the Outdoor Life Network.
It's crazy.
That's where the NHL had fallen. And this is what's most important. I asked you earlier how old you were at the time those guys came in the league. I loved the NHL, but as a kid, I did take note of the fact that to my friends who weren't hockey fans, there weren't a ton of household names. Like people knew who Fedorov was, and people knew who I don't even know if like everybody knew who Mario Lemieux was. They knew who Jaromir Jagr was, but like people didn't know. Like I'm saying everybody, obviously hockey fans, but like Peter Forsberg wasn't a household name. And like all the players that my friends and I would be like when we were playing hockey, we'd try to emulate. People did, like my sisters didn't know who a lot of those names were. People didn't know who Danny Heatley was or Daniel Alfredson. And people right away knew who Ovechkin and Crosby were. And that was so wild to me that they came in, were both top 10 in points as rookies. And suddenly it was like, oh shoot. Not to say that Forsberg and all those guys weren't unbelievable players and legends, which they were, but suddenly everybody knew who these two guys were. And for a while when I was a kid, that didn't totally exist.
Yeah, and I mean, like you talk about ESPN dropping the NHL, like Crosby and Ovechkin were making SportsCenter top 10 as 18, 19-year-olds and kind of establishing themselves in that space when a lot of attention wasn't being paid to the NHL. And I was like 13 when they entered the league. And like, I was always a hockey fan as a kid, just because it was always on in my house. But I was a baseball fan first up until around that time. And like when those two entered the league, that's when my fandom kind of kicked up a notch. And I started really, really getting invested in the NHL. So like in my story and like my life, they absolutely like put the NHL #1 on the radar for me.
Could Leo Carlsson save the NHL if the Ducks only let him?
That's right. We have to ask the question.
So that's the thing. Ovechkin said, like, now these new guys come in. Ovechkin didn't have to deal with a team that wouldn't let him play. I'm kidding. Patrick Kane, Elliot Friedman says that teams suspect Boston might be a team that's poked around on this, but questions whether the Bruins would commit to any sort of term.
He also seemed to indicate that that the Red Wings are in front. Not explicitly said. He acknowledged there's a lot of mystery around Kane and what his final few teams are looking like.
The word. Yeah. We both said that I don't think he puts anybody over the top or makes a massive impact. I know that some Blackhawks fans are saying now, like, hey, if you need a veteran who's kind of been there, done that, Patrick Kane is right there. I feel like it would be weird to just bring him in because a bunch of other bad stuff happened. Like, that's almost, even if you gave him like a huge contract, I feel like it's just disrespectful, because if you wanted to and you were going to do that, you would have already done it instead of getting those other guys in the first place?
It also flies in the face of him wanting to win, and I think that
It's weird to say the Blackhawks and Patrick Kane are a weird fit, but they are.
they are. It doesn't make a lot of sense, especially when you're trying to transition into like a new era of Blackhawks hockey. Bringing back like one of the pillars of old would be a bit weird. I also think it's a bit weird for him to be linked to the Bruins because I don't think it makes a lot of sense. Like we already talked about the fact, I think defense is more of a priority. Could they use some help up front? Yeah, I'm not sure it's on the right side, especially with Patrick Kane. Like, I don't know where, like, what happens to Jake DeBrusk?
Right.
Like, who does he displace? It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, other than the fact that he's old and American, which the Bruins fucking love both of those things.
If you turn DeBrusk and Grzelcyk into a defenseman and then sign
if there's
Kane,
a corresponding move, sure.
I suppose. But again, then you're kind of like, I consider Kane the same way I consider the guys they brought in on July 1. And the guys they brought in on July 1 were a bunch of old, accomplished, not accomplishing necessarily, but accomplished players that you hope could do something at the end of their career. And some of those have worked. And
Some of them have hit. JVR
JVR has been unbelievable. Lucic, obviously, away from the team now.
Was good at the beginning of the year.
Was good before he got hurt and all. Like we've hit on that. Shattenkirk kind of looked from the jump like, all right, probably a miss there, but that's what 1 year, $1 million deals are. I view Kane the same way as maybe he comes in and he's really good, or maybe he comes in and he's washed, coming off injury, and that's kind of it. I'm going to give you to this, Sean and Pete. Which jersey would go the hardest?
Red Wings.
I don't think a Kane Red Wings jersey in my mind looks that good.
I mean,
I think it's going to be what Sean's going to say.
I'm incredibly biased, obviously, but an 8-8 Sabres jersey would be insane.
It would be amazing.
It would be great, but like Red Wings have one of the best jerseys in the entire NHL, and any person looks good in that jersey.
Yeah, if I'm being unbiased, I think I'd probably say the Wings because it's just red and white. The 8-8's so symmetrical. Got a nice short last name. Like I think it would look, the back of that jersey would look clean.
It's similar to the Blackhawks.
I think
just
aesthetically, and I love a Red Wings jersey, but I think aesthetically and sentimentally, a Sabres 88 would
actually, well, not just a Sabres, but now that I'm looking at it, a goat head 8-8 with Kane on the back would be
that would
fucking
rule.
ridiculous.
Part of the Red Wings thing that also entices me though is just like how much it piss off Blackhawk fans.
Yeah,
because I know like they're in different conferences now, but that's viewed as a Blackhawks rival, and I know that it would ruffle some feathers, no pun intended, in Chicago.
We need to get some sort of uniform sponsor or jersey making sponsor because we're stocking these cupboards over here, getting jerseys like crazy. Sean, I have been trying to get you a Maxim Afinogenov goat head jersey, and I just can't do it. There's like one out there. It's like XXXL, and it's $4 million, and I just can't. I know that you love Maxim Afinogenov.
I do,
and
the greatest thrasher of all time.
Yes. This is what a great person I am. Whenever somebody throws out like I always wish I have whatever, I just take a note of it in my phone. And like, if I ever come across that, then try to get it for that person. And you brought up Maxim Afinogenov being one of your favorite Sabres. And I was like, yo, we should get him a goat head jersey. It's not happening, buddy.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's against the NHL's new equipment rules. You can't have those.
I even thought about that, but then I'm like, is it even cool if you have like a goat head one with the NHL shield on it that is like absolutely not what he would have been wearing? He would have been wearing probably Coho.
Yeah, I think he was Coho era.
Coho era jerseys slapped, man. All right, well, that's that. Do we have anything? 3 stars. Dustin Byfuglien apparently is a pro fisherman.
Yep.
Also, he was submitted by some whatnots for the Jokic of the NHL conversation.
I think that's
massive oversight on all of our parts. I apologize on behalf of Pete, Nick Foligno, and Seth Jones. I did like that conversation though.
Yeah, me too. And I thought it was a lot of fun. But that was maybe it's because he's not a current player and he's he's out of sight, out of mind for the most part. And I think that's by design from Dustin Byfuglien's part.
Yeah.
He really doesn't seem to want to have anything to do with hockey anymore. And I think that I read somewhere that he has not strapped up the skates once since retiring, which I could believe. Good for him. Like if that's the way that you want to live your retirement, it seems like he's having a good time fishing. So I think that's probably the most accurate choice though for the Jokic, and would kind of fall in line. Do
we think Phil has put on the skates?
Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Phil staying sharp, you think?
I think Phil loves hockey.
Yeah.
Phil loves hockey and will continue playing hockey long after he's done retired.
What if Phil did some Yager stuff and just played till he was
I don't know if I believe
60
him
years
loving
old.
hockey that much to go I would see Phil playing beer league pretty seriously deep into his old age, but I don't see him going to some weird country and playing overseas.
Kessel is one of our white whale guests.
Yes.
I would absolutely love to get him.
Would love to.
Him, there's a bunch, but Kessel would be amazing. And even if he doesn't have much to say, that's okay. Pete and I can talk.
Yeah.
We just want to hang out with you for a little bit.
My star of the weekend is every EASHL team that kicked our ass this weekend in the playoffs, because we had a real tough weekend.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Me and the boys played our club finals games this weekend.
I don't know what any of the things you're saying
So
is.
it's EA, the video game.
Yep.
You can play online with 5 of your buddies and ice a full team.
Okay.
And you play seasons, and then they have the finals, which are essentially the playoffs for a week at the end of the regular season. And boy, we loaded up. We were a very good team during the regular season. We were pumped. We were super excited. We thought we were amazing. We were in Division 1. There are 10 divisions. Division 1, top 5% of clubs in the world. We got fucking smoked this weekend.
Whoa.
So it was a tough scene.
I did that. I think I did one game of playing the 5-on-5, there's a real guy. And I was trying to do it like actual hockey, and I got very frustrated because I was bad at it because it was a video game.
You could do well with us because we play actual hockey, and I think that's the problem.
Yeah, if you do the,
That's why you get beat. You're right.
Yeah.
if you do the drop-in games, that's going to be a train wreck.
Really?
But
You're gonna end up with somebody who's just trying to score all the goals.
I
You gotta
will
know the
say
people.
this year's game does reward actual hockey more than years past, because they have the quote unquote pressure system. The more time
The
that you
goalie
establish
fatigue.
in the zone and cycle, it has better effects on your offensive game. So I'm having a good time playing it for the most part. This weekend just wasn't our weekend.
I like
We'll
a good
get him in
breakout.
season 2.
That's why I play the game. I like a good breakout.
Yeah. Oh
And
hell yeah!
I feel like my guess would be video games is just dumping it, hoping there's not an icing.
Oh no, definitely not.
Oh, okay.
No, there's a lot of nothing gets me going more than a good cycle with a tip in front, a nice little dirty goal on the doorstep.
Love
That
it.
stuff gets me going, and there's more of that this year.
I love getting to the dirty areas.
Hell
in
yeah.
EA.
So, are you a big EA?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Are you in the game, as they say?
I wouldn't consider myself a big EA person because generally I think EA kind of sucks. But
Are you a
I
gamer?
do love. Yeah. Oh yeah.
You play EASHL?
I haven't much
wanna join
with
the
the
squad?
new game, but I.
You want to join the squad?
I'd be interested.
Oh hell yeah! I love this.
All right. Well, we will be back tomorrow. We will review Checking It Twice. We'll also have a conversation. Can we say what we're doing tomorrow?
Yeah.
We'll have a conversation with the great Scott Darling, NHL goaltending great and stand-up comedian.
And Stanley Cup champion.
Did I say that? Goaltending great. I said, yeah. Stanley Cup champion. Awesome guy.
Chelsea Blues fan.
Yup.
True.
Gave him guff because at the time we spoke, they had just gotten crushed by my trees. I'm a forest guy. It's in me.
You can almost always say Chelsea just got crushed by somebody.
The best was after that game, I forget who is the commentator, or I just don't know because I still don't know as much about soccer as I would like. But they were like, Chelsea spent $10 bajillion this offseason and just lost to Nottingham Forest at home. Yikes. Anyway, Scott Darling tomorrow. It'll be a good time. Watch Checking It Twice. If you haven't, we will talk to you tomorrow. Have a great week.
We all silly like the mayor.